Okay, so today I want to do a little open book chit chatty video about my food story because I think it's just really interesting, especially for child athletes that then obviously have to retire from being an athlete and what their food journey is. Because at least for me personally, I could eat whatever I wanted as a child. I played basketball, I played softball, I played all these different sports. I was always active. So my diet wasn't a concern for me. It was just like, you need to eat so that way you can keep up with all of the things that you're doing. But before we get into that, if you've never seen me before, hi, my name is Kat, and my whole goal in life is to live an authentic and fulfilling lifestyle. And part of that is actually through food. I realized along the way how important it is to view food as fuel and to look at it from a perspective of how it makes you feel rather than what taste you're looking for in the moment, because the whole point of food is in fact to fuel you. It's not it can be this luxurious experience where you're doing it for the taste, but it probably shouldn't be that every single time. Yet somehow our society has convinced us that that is what it is. Anyways, so as I was saying, when I was a kid, I played a lot of sports and I did not grow up in the kitchen. Both my parents worked, and so it wasn't, uh, we didn't have like this Italian culture of like always making food and like always having family gatherings around having meals. It was like we have places to go, things to get to, and we all just need to be fed. So it was your typical microwave meals or like boxed dinners type thing because it needed to be quick. That was all we had time for. And so I don't know that besides in health class when they taught us that like the pyramid, everyone knows what I'm talking about, right? With the pyramid. Besides the food pyramid, I didn't really know that much about food and how to put together a meal and stuff like that growing up. Then what happens is I was a college athlete. I played basketball for my freshman year of college. And then I was like, never mind. I don't want to do this anymore. But with that, I had to kind of figure out how to live my life being significantly less active. Because when you're running, when you are training for a sport, like we had 3 hour practices every single day. And you were running up and down the court. Like, you can't replicate that like outside of actually being in that discipline. I mean, I guess you could, but like you'd be by yourself, it'd be weird. Anyways, so when that happened, my freshman year, the rest of my freshman year, like you just have like the food hall. But then when I got to my sophomore year, that's when I was like, oh shit, I really don't want to gain a bunch of weight, because I started to notice that I was gaining weight, and I was like, I can't gain the sophomore 15. I can't do that. And so that's when I started looking into what foods I should be eating and what constitutes as a meal. And this was also the first time that I actually had a kitchen. Because my freshman year, I was just in a dorm room. So like I said, you just had like the campus food court or whatever. But this was the first time I like could make meals for myself. So I started getting into it and everything like that. The rest of college kind of goes by, and I stick to those original principles that I learned back in my sophomore year. From there, I moved to New York City after I graduated college. I had about like 6 to 8 months at home just because of COVID, but then I moved to New York City. When I got to New York City, I think the first 6 months I was in a sublease. So it was just, I was poor and I had to buy groceries. Like, I think I was making like 35K at that point in New York City, which is just absurd. But once I got a new job and I moved into a new apartment that was much bigger, the kitchen was still really small. And now that I had an actual salary, I didn't buy groceries. Not very often, at least. When it came to my last year of being in corporate, I ate out for almost every single meal. Plot twist, that's actually horrible for you. It made me feel like shit all of the time. And it was to the point where at the end of 2023, that's when something had to be done because I was bloating so badly. Like, you would knock on my stomach and it would be rock hard. It was disgusting. And when I went for a physical, they asked me like, "Oh, do you have any issues with bloating?" And I was like, "As a matter of fact, I do." And she was like, "Well, do you want to do an allergy test?" And I was like, "I never even thought about that. I just thought I was eating like an asshole, and that's why my stomach hurt." So they do the test. Turns out, even when I was trying to eat healthy, I was trying to eat chicken. I'm allergic to chicken. I'm allergic to chicken. Chicken, potatoes, egg. Well, specifically whole egg. I'm still not really entirely sure what the deal is between a whole egg and a regular egg. I don't know if that means that I can eat egg whites, whatever. But tuna, corn, and some other random stuff like that. But it was foods that were taking up like such a huge portion of what I was eating because I would go and I would try and eat a light meal like sushi so that way I wouldn't bloat. Meanwhile, I'd have a spicy tuna roll and I'd come back looking 6 months pregnant. And I was like, what the fuck? What the fuck? So I'm really glad that I found out about my allergies because that completely changed the way that I started eating. Obviously, I cut out all of those things. And at the same time, I was really trying to start cooking at home and actually going grocery shopping. The thing that sucks about the city is that you can't get everything you want at one store. Like Trader Joe's is good for certain things. Whole Foods was good for certain things, and then you just needed like regular normal stuff that you like grew up with, or I grew up with. That's how I perceived it at like Morton Williams or something, or like a Target. And having to go to 3 different grocery stores is just exhausting. It sucks because here's the thing: Trader Joe's produce, ass, not doing it. I'm not getting produce from Target and Morton Williams in the city. No, I'm going to Whole Foods. I'm going to Whole Foods. As far as like anything else, like frozen and stuff, Trader Joe's is the best. Trader Joe's has the best frozen options for anything and like little snacks. Yeah. And then again, Morton Williams just has like regular normal stuff that isn't carried at Whole Foods or Trader Joe's because they're very specific in the types of brands that they choose. So it just, overall, living in a city like that was probably terrible for my food journey, but it taught me a lot because it taught me what my stomach does not like and the fact that if I keep eating a certain way, like it will affect me. So then, flash forward a little bit, and I start going abroad. I went to Southeast Asia first, and it was just interesting because the type of food is very, very different there. And I just didn't feel the need to eat a lot or like eat all the time. That wasn't like the main thing that was on my mind. That's not where my focus was at. It was just kind of, I would sit and I would enjoy the meal for an hour. I wasn't trying to rush eating, which was another thing that I found on my food journey is how quickly I would eat food and how that would also cause me to bloat and like not feel good. So I was just learning different little mini tidbits about my own eating habits besides what I was physically actually eating, right? And I started to realize a lot of the way that I ate pertained to the stress that I felt in my circumstances. And it was really just, I would always treat myself to something. It didn't even have to be food, but food was always the easiest thing and I could justify it the easiest. And so I would get all these little treats, like a coffee, or like while I was at the coffee, I might as well get a brownie, or I might as well get a donut, or something like that. And it's like those things add up. Those things add up really quick. So I was kind of noticing all of that, and when I was in Asia, I just didn't feel that. I would chill for so long at these different coffee shops or restaurants, and just enjoy myself and enjoy the views. And it was so calming and it was so relaxing. And not to mention, the food was cheap. The food was cheap. It was so nice. I hate that food is so expensive in America. But so I learned a couple things like that. And I saw the way that other countries more so drank rather than ate, because I noticed how different their beverage menus were. I basically stopped drinking because of that. And it was just that also did wonders for my stomach. And I realized how much alcohol itself was also affecting my digestion and my bloating and just everything along those lines. So then, flash forward again, and I go to surf camp in Costa Rica. Surf camp in Costa Rica was one of the best things that could have ever happened to me as far as my food journey, because all I ate was rice and beans, and for breakfast we would get some fruit, and yeah, dinner was pretty much the same thing, except usually you had some form of protein. I guess I had eggs in the morning for breakfast too, but I didn't really eat them. So, because again, I don't really know what whole egg means, but I try to avoid them as much as possible. So from there, I realized, well, first off, I lost like 20 pounds in the 3 weeks that I was at surf camp, because it was just like I was eating like 2 to 3 meals a day, but they were all just like natural foods. Didn't have to process them a lot. Like, my body didn't have to process them that much, I should say. And I felt so good. I felt so good. And I was thinking clearer. Like, everything about the way that I was existing just felt better. So I wanted to continue that when I got back to the States. So I tried to remake or do iterations of the meals that I had in Costa Rica. I really wanted to stick to rice and beans. And then I realized I'm really not good at cooking rice. And I haven't figured out the best way to go about making that like a daily thing. So instead, I remembered whenever we didn't have rice, they would switch it in for a tortilla. So I started basically just eating vegetables for breakfast, like tomato, mushroom, and spinach. And then I would do beans in a tortilla as well for breakfast. And then I would try and just eat like a protein and some veggies for lunch. And then whatever was being made for dinner, I would eat for dinner. And at some point, I randomly got onto ClassPass in order to look at my massage options. And while I was looking at massage options, I ran into a place that had an Ayurvedic practitioner. And I was like, well, what is this? What is this? Because I was super into ancient civilizations at the time. And so, still am. But, so I went and I wanted to see what it was, because it was all about holistic health. And I realized how much I believed in holistic health, and actually just, if you treat your body well, that's like the root solution. That's like the best thing that you could do, and then you don't need all of these other band-aid things. So I went to her, and she basically told me the same thing, but like put it into better terms that I actually understood. So she would say something like, you're trying to live with nature. You are part of nature, so you should naturally live with nature. Meaning, you wake up with the sun, you rest with the sun, and you try and eat your meal at the high point. Like, you try to eat your lunch whenever the sun is at its highest peak, because it's going to give you the most energy to help you digest your meal. So you keep everything in the morning pretty light and easily digestible, and then as you go later into the day, you're trying to feed off the sun's energy. And it was all about learning what different parts of your body is trying to tell you about what's not in balance in your body. So, for example, my Vata was off. And the reason my Vata was off is because Vata is all about movement. And what does movement, like, mess up? your digestion. And so movement made so much sense because for the past 6 months, by the time I got there, past 7 months, I'd been a nomad. I'd been moving and bouncing from place to place to place. I didn't have a routine. I didn't have a structure, which means that I needed to be doing a lot more to help my body balance out. Same as with your mind. If you're an overthinker, that also that also can affect your digestion. And I was like, well, at the time, I definitely was an overthinker. I've definitely worked on that. So it's not as bad now. But it was understanding how all of these things fit together and making sure that I'm very mindful of the season that's happening outside, because that also affects it, because whatever foods are in season, that's what you should be eating too. You shouldn't be eating foods that are out of season, because everything has a purpose. Everything was naturally designed a certain way by nature. And so all of these things just helped me to stay in such better shape. And I started to realize the ways that my relationship with food, and how I was feeling my body changed the way I viewed working out as well. Because I no longer felt like I had to run a lot or lift a lot or do all of these things and exert a lot of energy on my body all the time, like you do whenever you know that you're eating like shit, so you're trying to fix it with exercise. Instead, now it was all about, I want soft, gentle movement. I want to go for walks. I want to do yoga, and I want to do Pilates. And I don't mind mixing in strength training with true weights every now and then. But a lot of the things that I wanted to do were mainly body weight. And it was just, it felt more natural, and it felt better for my body. And I'm able to do those things because of because of the way that I'm eating. So I just think it's really interesting the way that we all kind of get into our own food story, because again, I went from someone that never cooked to, with an Ayurvedic lifestyle, I cook all the time now. I cook for every single meal, and I like buying groceries now. I want groceries, because eating out at restaurants or even ordering takeout, while sometimes I do it out of convenience, I am hit with the consequences very quickly, because my stomach will bloat, or I will feel like shit if I do that. And so it's to the point where your body is so trained to have those natural things that it doesn't want any of the bullshit that is fed to us in America. We have shitty food in America, like especially at restaurants. It's all about taste. It's not necessarily about what's good for you. And I can't wait to see how the food industry evolves over the next like 10 to 20 years, and what we start bringing in, and how much we start paying attention to our food. Because again, food is fuel. They say trust your gut. If you have a shitty ass microbiome, you can't trust your gut. You can't trust your intuition, because your gut is directly tied to your brain. So if your gut's shitty, that means your brain's kind of shitty. And it's like this whole cyclical thing where you also realize how your food plays into your mental health, plays into your spirituality. It's a crazy, crazy adventure that I've been on with my food journey. And that's why I wanted to share it, because I want people to have this same realization that I had for myself, by getting to go to these different places and experiencing different ways to perceive food and your relationship to food. But yeah, that kind of sums up the past 9 months of me figuring out, or no, well, 2.5 years, no, 2023, almost 2 years. We can't do math right now, but 2 years worth of finding out what my body likes to eat. Anyways, I hope you have a great day. I hope this was helpful. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you resonate with anything that I said, or have anything to add, feel free to add it in the comments below. And as always, subscribe. I love chatting with you. It's always a good time, right? So yeah, And if you're curious about anything that I'm up to, go ahead and check out the link in my bio or the description. I always keep what I'm up to down there. But yeah, it's been lovely chatting. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Okay, love you, bye. Mwah.